Okay, we're going to read the next section of the reappearance of the Christ, and this section is called Christ as the releaser of energy. We're still in the same chapter. We're just going to get through this one section today. So during the next 3 months of the period of crisis through which Christ in the hierarchy passed, and which was ended by his announced decision, we're talking about June of 1945, was ended by his announced decision, certain great energies or fundamental streams of force were made available to Christ and his disciples. Today, the fact that energy is the basic substance of the universe, that all forms of life are energy forms living within greater energy forms, and that all such forms, great or small, use energy and act as distributors of energy, is well known and generally accepted fact by thinking and intelligent people. Speech, the written word, and motivated activity are all expressions of energy, lead to the spread of energy into activities which are all expressions of energy and the cause of energy distribution. Governments, churches, organizations, and groups are all energy distributors and also storehouses of energy. Humanity itself is a great center of energy, affecting all the subhuman kingdoms, and forming likewise within itself a great system of interrelated energies. The same thing is true of the individual who, by his acts and words, employs energy, produces effects, which are energy effects, and acts as a distributor of energy. Where the undeveloped individual is concerned, he realizes none of this, and the energy which he manipulates is of relatively small importance. As evolution proceeds and individual men and women achieve power and expression, their use of energy is frequently of major importance. They become dynamic centers of energy distribution, and their words, spoken or written, plus their activities, produce wide effects and momentous results. The hierarchy is a great energy center, and through the Christ, its energy reaches humanity. This is the significance of his words, I am come that they might have life. Life and energy are synonymous terms. During the war, 1914 and 1945, the Christ in the hierarchy looked on at a dying world. Men and forms were dying on every hand. Old ideals, organizations, and groups were passing away, and the specter of death stalked on every hand. Destruction characterized the phenomenal world as well as the subtler worlds of feeling and of thought. Sorry about that. Life was withdrawn and death resulted. The problem of Christ and his disciples was to see that the old and the undesirable were not revivified. Their task was not the resuscitation of the dead and the useless, the directed inflow of life carrying the capacity to build the new and the energy which could produce a new world and a new civilization. There lay their opportunity and their responsibility. The reactionary forces of the world, political and religious, desired the resurrection of the old and dead forms. They threw their weight and their influence, which is only another name for energy, against all that was new. This they are still doing. The progressive forces fight only for that which is new and seek not the preservation of any of the old forms, even if they could serve a useful purpose. So that's very interesting there. The reactionary forces of the world, political and religious, desired the resurrection of the old and dead forms. They threw their weight and their influence against all that was new. This they are still doing. The progressive forces fight only for that which is new and seek not the preservation of any old forms, even if they could serve a useful purpose. Their energetic denial of all that is of the past and destroying energy which they direct against anything which is of old regime are likewise handicapping the efforts of the hierarchy. In these progressive forces, hope does indeed lie, but they sadly lack skill and action and have too great a love for destruction. The new group of world servers hold steadily to the noble middle way, as the Buddha called it, and seek the decent burial of old forms, the implementation of that which is new, and the restoration of that which has in the past proved useful and good, and which could form the living germ of the new creation. That is that's something that we might be able to see in the world as these forces are acting out, or as these powers are acting out. It's something to be considered there. Everything TK says is to be considered, but that's something that we can probably, meditate on, contemplate on. At the time of the full moon of April 1945, during the Easter season of that year and covering approximately a period of 5 weeks, the forces of restoration began their work, emerging first upon the subtler planes of human experience. This type of energy is peculiarly creative in nature and carries the life which produces the birth of forms. It poured into the hierarchy via certain of the masters and their groups of disciples, and was immediately transmitted by them to humanity as a whole. This energy is a mass energy and is related to the stimulation of the mass intelligence. It is not the energy which we have earlier considered when dealing with the Christ consciousness in man. This is the energy which makes men think, plan, and take action. It produces neither bad nor good results, but simply brings about the awakening of men's minds so that they take intelligent action. That action is necessarily dependent upon the type of mind of the man who responds to the forces of restoration, conditioned by his point in evolution, his racial and national background, his tradition, and his religious and civilized reactions. These forces are now active in every land, frequently producing increased initial difficulties, but leading eventually to a definite reorganization of the national or planetary life. Their effects will be primarily physical. They will bring about a new world in which the evidences of war will have disappeared, the physical health of men and animals will be bettered, and cities and villages will be rebuilt. Their objective is the production of the new earth and all the outer evidences of an inflowing new life. So we see that this is taking time to get to this point. Following this inflow at the time of the full moon of the Buddha in May of 1945, the forces of enlightenment became active and light began to stream into the minds of men. These are in reality the energies which initiate the New World education. Those first to be affected by them are the great educational movements, the forums of the people in all lands, and the values which are now unfolding through the radio and the moving picture industry. Others deeply affected are the press, the publishers of world literature, speakers, writers, radio commentators, newspaper men, and social workers. These effects may not yet be apparent, for a little time has yet elapsed, but all these movements and people are the recipients today of the energies of enlightenment if they are prompt to recognize new emerging ideas. They are the custodians of this energy and its distributing agents, channeling it and directing it so that the masses of people everywhere come under its influence. Progressive and liberal churchmen in all world religions are also responsive to this energy, but their usefulness is greatly handicapped owing to the reactionary nature of the setting or field in which they have to work. They are confronted with a well-nigh impossible task. These energies of enlightenment reach humanity via the new group of world servers who are very susceptible to their impact and who are in a position to distribute them because they are to be found working in all fields of activity mentioned above. The forces of restoration are related to and emanate from the mind of God and are connected with the intelligent principle in the divine nature. The intellect is that divine aspect which distinguishes man from all other forms in nature. The intellect is that divine aspect which distinguishes man from all other forms in nature. The forces of enlightenment come from the heart of God and are related to divine understanding and can therefore reach and strengthen all those who love and serve their fellow men. This energy is related to the second aspect or principle of divinity, love, wisdom, of which the Buddha and the Christ are the two outstanding divine expressions. It is mainly through them and their disciples or the masters on the same line of divine expression that these energies reach humanity, channeled by the new group of world servers. And it's been told to me that the new group of world servers are basically buffers for this energy. So we can kind of look at it like that. Maybe dispensers, buffers, I guess. It's interesting. It's definitely something to consider on how this energy reaches us and then, humanity and those who are working this way consciously or unconsciously, and then it gets pushed out. The Christ and the Buddha combine the way of the mind and the way of the heart in their perfection and towered above their fellow men from the heights of their achievement. They swayed hemispheres in centuries, whereas lesser sons of God sway countries in shorter periods of time. They still have some consummating work to carry through, though the indicated work lies not so much with the forms which embody their enunciated divine principles, light and love, as with the souls who have evolved through the application of these principles. Not so much with the forms which embody their enunciated divine principles of light and love, but with the souls who have evolved through the application of these principles. So it's not so much about the bodies, it's about the souls. In June 1945, Christ set in motion the forces of reconstruction, which are related to the will aspect of divinity, and which remain as yet the least powerful of the three streams of energy released during the three full moon festivals in 1945. These forces of reconstruction are effective mainly in relation to those entities which we call nations. The hierarchy is at this time attempting to channel them into the assembly of the United Nations. The use made of these impersonal energies is dependent upon the quality and the nature of the recipient nation, on its measure of true enlightenment, and on its point in evolution. Nations are the expression today of the massed self-centeredness of people and of their instinct to self-preservation. And we can kind of see that a country could be considered, would be considered a group. As those people are gathered on that landmass, you can kind of see that that is a group, right? Nations are the expression today of the mass self-centeredness of a people and of their instinct to self-preservation. These energies can, therefore, increase that aspect of their lives. So that the aspect that we could be seeing increased would be the instinct to self-preservation, which makes a lot of sense. They can, however, in spite of this, increase the potency of the objective which the United Nations at present theoretically holds before the eyes of men everywhere. So theoretically, the United Nations does represent something good and true and really beautiful. It's just maybe it hasn't caught up to its capabilities. Well, not maybe, but or maybe it's wasn't supposed to yet. Maybe it's still the idea that needs to become the ideal, or this needs to take form. The main object of the hierarchy is so to distribute these constructive synthesizing energies that the theory of unity may slowly be turned into practice, and the word united may come to have a true significance and meaning. It is with this type of energy that the avatar of synthesis is peculiarly allied. He will convey to humanity, with the aid of the Christ, something for which we have as yet no name. It is neither love nor will, as we understand them. Only a phrase of several words will bring to us something of meaning. This phrase is the principle of directed purpose. This principle involves three things. One, understanding, intuitive and spiritually instinctual, but intelligently interpreted of the plan as it can be worked out in the immediate future by the Christ and his disciples. Two, focused intention based upon the above and emphasizing an aspect of the will hitherto undeveloped in man. And lastly, three, the capacity to direct energy through understanding and intent towards a recognized and desired end, overcoming all obstacles and destroying all that stands in its way. This is not the destruction of forms by force, such as we have seen imposed upon the world, but a destruction brought about by the greatly strengthened life within the form. So we're looking at understanding, focused intention, and a capacity to direct energy there. The significance of these divine principles will make little sense to us today. We are dealing with major mysteries. A mystery remains a mystery only when ignorance or unbelief exists. There is no mystery where there is knowledge and faith. All we know at this time is that the Christ will fuse and blend within himself three principles of divinity. When he appears, the light that always has been will be seen. The love that never ceases will be realized, and the radiance deep concealed will break forth into being. We shall then have a new world, one which will express the light, the love, and the knowledge of God in a crescendo of revelation. And that crescendo of revelation, is that unfoldment, and that unfoldment is it's in order, and it's harmonized, and it's would appear to be just one continuous kind of understanding coming through, as if there was no time. There's no break in the understanding. It comes together and it makes sense, is what I mean, over a period. The beauty of this synthesis, which Christ will manifest, and the wonder of the presented opportunity must surely be apparent to all of us. Great forces under potent spiritual leadership are standing ready to precipitate themselves into this world of chaos, of confusion, of aspiration, of hope, and of bewilderment. These groups of energies are ready for focusing and distribution by the hierarchy, and that hierarchy, under its great leader, the Christ, is closer to mankind than ever before in human history. The new group of world servers are also standing attentive to direction in every country in the world, united in their idealism and their humanitarian objectives and their sensitivity to spiritual impression and their united subjective purpose. in their love of their fellow men, and in their dedication to selfless service. The men and women of goodwill are also to be found everywhere, ready to be guided into constructive activity and to be the agents gradually trained and educated for the establishing of that which has never yet before truly existed, right human relations. Thus, from the highest spiritual being upon our planet, through the graded spiritual groups of enlightened and perfected men who work upon the inner side of life, on into the outer world of daily living, where thinking, loving men and women serve, the tide of the new life sweeps. The plan is ready for immediate application and intelligent implementing. The workers are there, and the power to work is adequate to the need. Above all else, the hierarchy stands, and the Christ stands ready to issue forth and demonstrate reality. And, again, this word precipitation comes in because there are a lot less in the hierarchy and in the new group of world servers than there are, I'll say average humanity, I guess potentially is the right word, but the new group of world servers and the hierarchy, only makes up a very small portion of the population on the earth. But God, Christ, the hierarchy, and the new group of world servers are, in fact, I've seen this in my mind. They are situated in all activities of life, and it's not that we know them. In every department, in every agency, in every bureau, in all of these places, whether they know it or they don't know it, that they're dispensers of this energy of love. They're there. So if you could look at it like there's representatives throughout every form, or let's just use the government for an example of the United States. They're in every department, and they're there as these buffers, and this, their energy seeps out, and it's this precipitation process. And it's really amazing, because when you start to have friends who work for one agency, or somebody who works at this other agency, or this person's in medical, and it's not, I don't know the numbers. Obviously, I haven't even considered the numbers because it's just too big of a math problem. But I know that they're there, and it's easy to see that this could potentially be taking place, is what I mean by this. There's a lot of comfort in that too, that there are these representatives all over, and are waking up and are doing the work maybe more consciously than not at this point. As we're, I don't even know that that's completely necessary. It's not probably that they need to be conscious of it. The hierarchy is conscious of it, but the new group of world servers, I've read, may not be, but it's still, the process continues. So this is good news. And I think this section in particular is pretty intuitive. So we're going to leave it there for today. And then we will pick up with Christ as the unifier of the East and the West, likely tomorrow. So. All right. Have a good day. Thanks.